Happy birthday to you, Matt. It's Austin Lingo's birthday this week. This was in his Instagram story. He's having a fruit birthday cake coming up this one. And Matt, for Lingo, he's one of like a few fighters that are on this card that are making up for lost time. He lost against Nate Landwehr's last time out. There was a cut on Nate Landwehr. It was due to a clash of heads, but Lingo was walking down Nate Landwehr. Lingo gets caught in a bit of a scramble. He ends up getting his back taken. He taps due to the choke from Landwehr. What happens out of that? Landwehr gets a 50K bonus, and then he takes on 50K Ige, who's in the rankings, and looked like he shelled himself in that fight. But regardless, for Lingo, it obviously kind of lessens his stock coming into a fight like this against Melk Costa. So both of these guys coming off of losses. Costa came in on about a month's notice to take on the formerly ranked Thiago Moises. Well, in that one, we'll get you up to speed. We'll get you excited about the former Predator FC featherweight champ. That is Melk Costa, who recently cornered one Joe Anderson Brito when he Brito'd the brakes off Weston Wilson. Melk Costa. And in on this short notice, representing Brazil, the former Predator FC featherweight champ, Melk Costa. And as soon as I thought about that, Matt, I thought, you know what? This guy reminds me all of a sudden with a nickname like that of your favorite all-star MVP. Matt, do you know who that is?
I have no idea.
Yes, you do. Melky Cabrera, the Milkman. You absolutely loved him. But for Melk Costa, this guy is such an interesting prospect and definitely due for an opportunity in the UFC. And it's not often that I say prospect when somebody has a record of already 19-5. But this guy's definitely grown as a martial artist. You remember him in the headlines in 2018, and you're going, Craig, no, I don't. Yeah, you do, because he was the guy on Twitter that got submitted and was unconscious in a ring for 90 seconds. And it was disgusting. But from that guy to the guy standing before you, again, definitely due for an opportunity in the UFC. And I know in his last 5 fights, he's 4-1, and he lost 3 fights ago against Italo Gomes, where he did lose a decision. Heck, I thought he won that fight. I thought he won 2 of the 3 rounds in that one. And if you go through his overall record, plenty of finish wins for sure. His last 2 fights, definitely getting it done with his hand. And if you do look at it, his last time out against Junior Mello where he knocked him out, he looked absolutely amazing in that fight and on fire. But for Costa, Matt, this is one of those guys, it does feel like a lot of the fights that are on this card, like Lacerda taking on Stamen, like, what else? Bonfim maybe against McKinney. Costa's getting a shot against a guy that was recently ranked in the lightweight division in Thiago Moises. So a giant opportunity on short notice for Costa.
Now, here's the first thing. Melky Cabrera would never pass a USADA test. I love Melky Cabrera, but let's just call it what it was. For Costa, I do really think he does have a decided advantage on the feet, and I love the way that he can switch up his power shots in his combinations. Dan Hardy is the first person I ever remember bringing this up and really spoke about it in depth, so I always try to give him the credit for it when he deserves it, because when Costa throws his punches, let's say he's throwing a 3-punch combination, jab, right to the body, left hook, he can mix his power shot in to decide which shot is setting up the next and which one is really going to be that kill shot, the knockout shot. And that's what I do like out of Costa. Those are things that you just kind of learn when you're young in your career. Those are things that take time. You train them. You perfect them over time. And that's what I do like to see out of Costa.
Like, you talk about Michael Johnson against Thiago Moises, long, rangy on the outside, southpaw, will mix in a little bit of a kick, but mostly with his boxing. Costa fights the same way. But if you look at it for Costa, again, going down through these fights, fight against Italo Gomes, the pre-fight preamble, he looked like Ty Lopez. I'm with my Lamborghini here behind him. And he goes into that fight, and they bill him. They say, this man is a grappler. What? Like, I know he trains at a shoot-the-box Barao, which is where he's from. Who's out of that gym? It's not the Charles Oliveira shoot-the-box Diego Lima. Tubarao, Joe Anderson Brito, and I don't like to compare team members all the time. Costa has one thing that Brito has. He goes balls to the wall when he is on the mat, and he tries to sweep a lot, and he'll use like leg locks to sweep at a bad position, and Kimuras to then sweep to get on top, and it works against a lot of fighters.
This ain't the man.
It's not going to work against Thiago Moises, so if they bill him as a grappler, don't be fooled. Now, Costa is really good on the mat. He's not Moises good. If he does submit him, it would be like the Jacare Souza, Andrea Muniz submission. Yeah. But when I do look at all of his fights, Matt, his fight IQ, his clinch work, it's great. His boxing combinations, as you said, like, I love his kicks. There's, like, Costa's one of the most complete prospects you're going to find coming into the UFC. I love that he's in the UFC. I think he has a high ceiling. I think Moises is too much coming into this one.
Yeah.
And so you had Melk Costa in on 13 days notice replacing Guram Kutateladze. It wasn't a month. It was only 13 days. And in that matchup, He was a 3-1 underdog. So what does he do? He gets taken down, but strong in the wizard position against Moises in certain spots. But when he was off his back and we knew that he would be very aggressive, he was. He was trying to go for sweeps, Kimura sweeps. He was trying to threaten with chokes off the bottom against the former
Moises didn't play those games, though.
Top man. Nah, so Moises gets the win. It looks amazing. It's great for him and for his career, but for Melk Costa, a little bit of reset. And just like Austin Lingo, both guys, former LFA studs. They main evented LFA cards in the past. But you look at a fight like this where Austin Lingo, hampered by meniscus injury. They said on his last fight, hip and ankle were mentioned by the broadcast as to the reason why we hadn't seen him. And he was originally due his last time out, not Nate the Train, but Ricardo Ramos, who showed up for a featherweight fight at 154, so a little bit unprofessional BS in that one. But Lingo just didn't really look like himself, and so you're thinking to yourself, what does good Austin Lingo look like?
I think the one who fought Saldana was decent, at least as the fight went on.
The one that fought Luis Saldana got beat the first round bad,
and then
and rallied as it went on, and he dropped Luis Saldana by throwing a jab to the liver, which is wild. But if you watch Austin Lingo, I'd say, well, Jacob Kilburn, who didn't have the greatest of career in the UFC or after the UFC. Kilburn went 1 of 18 on takedown attempts. So Lingo's, you got to defend some of them. But Lingo, when he's good, is when he's moving forward, biting down on his mouthpiece like there's no tomorrow, going double jab right hand, and boxing your ears in. And that's the big Austin Lingo thing. He's not a kicker at all. He's a boxer in MMA, and when he does it well, he does it really well. So it's the guy that kicked out Kevin Aguilar out of the UFC, the Angel of Death. So a good win there for Austin Lane. But in this matchup, Matt, we know Melk Costa. We know where he trains. We know that he's with Joe Anderson Brito. You saw him in the corner there a few weeks ago. I think it's going to be a fun fight, but it really is an oil and water type of fight here.
It's going to be interesting to see if Costa can get his kicks implemented at his own range, because from that southpaw position, he loves that left high kick. And what I like about the left high kick is not only is it something you have to watch out for, but when you're fighting an orthodox fighter who has a really good right hand, what does it make them do? It makes them keep it up and use it defensively for a lot of positions, because guess what? If it's not up, they're going to get hit with that head kick quite often. So what I like out of Costa is that one technique is not only an offensive maneuver, I do think it's going to make Austin Lingo, listen, you're not going to make him become a defensive shell of himself, right? He wants to get in your face, like you say. The boxing is nice. What I like about Lingo, too, is he'll kind of get hot with the jab sometimes, you know? It'll be really accurate. He'll stick it at you 3, 4, 5 times, and then he can hit you with that right hand. And when those two weapons are working in unison, he is a very effective fighter, but I am going to very curious to see how is he going to handle some of the kicks and the movement of Costa, because if the jab's not landing and if he is that kind of half step out of range, he doesn't necessarily have all those other tools to then go out there and make up the difference athletically. So I do think it's going to come down to, can he damage Costa? Not even early. I just think he's really going to have to damage him on some of those closer engagements, because if Costa is leaving himself a little bit wider open, going for some of those bigger techniques, he has a great spinning body kick as well. Lingo can kill him with the fundamentals, I think, as this fight continues. So maybe this fight isn't one of those fights where there's an obvious seesaw of, okay, I think Costa can have a lot of success early with his variety, but maybe later on Lingo can come through. I just think both guys have very obvious strengths in this fight.
Yeah, no matter who wins this matchup, on Twitter you're going to see a picture of a chest x-ray with pit bulls in it, because these two guys have that dog in them. And if you consider it over there in the chat, MPTV flipped the coin. Donnie Dimes really likes the kick, behind the cage door, hanging out, having a good time. How are you on this live Tuesday night? And Manny Maniac saying Lingo for the win and for the fight of the night. It makes for an interesting podcast version of this on the audio when you do it live, but that's what we're doing tonight. Matt, I mean, we have a look at the Topology votes for Lingo, looking for the first win in a meaningful amount of time. Injuries had him away for a very long time. He was due, as I said, Ramos. He ends up with Landwehr, who ends up against a ranked opponent. Costa takes on the former ranked man in one, Thiago Moises. And again, as you can see from the graphic, that one was up at featherweight, at lightweight. This one will be back down at featherweight, where he was the Predator champ. Costa is the favorite in the matchup. I'm going to say over under 80%. For old Milkman, Melky Costa.
I think they'll be under, but it'll be the favorite.
And it is under 1,128 total votes, 72% Costa, 59% by decision for the 28% that have Lingo, 77% by decision. I mean, Lingo is one of those guys. It's consistent. You see what you're going to see at every fight. For me, I do like the variety of a guy like Melk Costa. He is a little bit more unpredictable. And when it comes to his jiu-jitsu, could it be Thiago Moises at 155? No, but very rarely do men do that. I do like Costa in the fight.
I also like Costa in the fight. I think this is going to be a really exciting matchup by the time it's over, because even if Costa is able to win this fight, he's going to get hit by big shots. He's going to get pressure during this fight. And I think those always make for an exciting matchup. So I agree with you. I've also got Costa.
Should be a good time. MPTV likes the live show. You have no idea how tiring it is to not have any edits and do this one live, but we're doing it for you. The picks won't pop up on screen, but if you listen, you got them. Both of us going with Melk Costa to get the win. Some big-time fights in this card, including the next one between Victoria Dudakova and her UFC debut, taking on Istela Nunes, the former World Muay Thai champion. You're not going to want to miss it. Keep it locked in with Fight Night Picks. We always say,
Let's get into it.